Down south, hunting is more than a pastime. It's a tradition. Whether you're tucked into a pine thicket for whitetail or chasing hogs through the bottoms, Nosler Ammo offers the kind of reliable, knockdown power that earns respect season after season. Trust the name that's built a reputation on performance. Trust Nosler.
Welcome to the Southern U Podcast, brought to you by Darden Archery on the OKest Podcast Network, with your co-host Matt Brock, Jeremy Ferguson, and Taylor McMurtry. If you're looking for all things land-related in the Southeast, you came to the right place. Whether it's real estate, habitat, wildlife, or just being outdoors, this is the place for you. Welcome to the Southern U. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Southern U Podcast, where we talk all things land related here in the South. I'm joined by I wish I had my soundboard hooked up right now, but I don't. Sorry, y'all. We're just trying to get stuff done around here. But joined by the real estate and cattle habitat, all things land aficionado, Mr. Jeremy Ferguson. What's up, Jay Ferg?
What's going on? Just another day in the office. The first day in the office in a while, actually. Yeah,
I was going to say it's not, guys aren't burning because of the rain, so it's probably a welcomed little break.
Yeah, it is. I really need to be working on putting a couple listings together and some market value assessments together. And so I was able to do that, I think, maybe Friday and today. Looks like I'm going to have the rest of the week to do some of it too. So,
well, there you go. That's good. Get a little rain, get a little downtime. I know Matt's been literally burning at both ends.
Yeah.
And Bray too.
They've covered a lot of territory. I think, of course, Bray, I think, has been helping Matt, and Cody's been helping me, and I've been helping him. But I think between the two crews of us, so 4 people, I think we've knocked out between 2,000 and 2,500 acres in the last, week and a half to 2 weeks. It's been a good run. I mean, we're not burning those national forest size numbers, but we're covering a lot of territory.
No doubt about it. Seems like can't get caught up, which, shameless plug here for the Habitat Network. We launched that last week, and overall that was really positive, and I want to thank you guys for making that a good launch despite a few hiccups that we had just on our end, website stuff and technology not doing what it's supposed to do. Imagine that. But apart from that,
and you got
overall it was a good launch.
You've got interweb illiterates like me that get on Facebook and share the private group with 1,000 people, and it's like have to try to rein that back in because that wasn't the intent. But from now on, I think I'm going to leave all the techno stuff up to you because I seem to mess it up every time I touch it.
No, I need all the help I can get because we launched and didn't have a way to accept a payment. So that was fun trying to wrangle that while I had COVID and get all that situated.
You finally get over it all, I guess?
I reckon, man. You guys don't know this, Jeremy does, but my oldest was sick Friday. And so it's one of those things where you guys know if you're a parent out there, when one kid goes down, you know that it's about to go through the whole house, and it's just like, the waiting game or the wondering if this is, that's almost worse than the sickness itself. It's just not knowing when it's going to take you out or take one of the kids out or whatever. So, glad to say, praise the Lord, nobody else got sick, or I'm knocking on wood if y'all can hear that, but hopefully we don't, nobody else is going to get sick, because we haven't yet. So, man, I'm telling you, I'm ready for spring break. I'm ready for kids to be out of school for a little bit and not be around each other. So we maybe stay healthy for a week solid. We don't even know what it's like. We went from flu to COVID to he had kind of the stomach stuff going on Friday. So
yeah, and I don't know what this funk is that's going around, but I never went to the doctor to be tested, but I had something, all that head mess, and I'm still got a lot of congestion, drainage. I'm sure you can hear it, and I'll probably have to step off screen and wipe my nose time or two. But I don't know, man. I just can't. I feel fine, but I can't shake the. Hell, let's just say it. I can't shake the snot.
Yep,
it's just here. But
I know, and then everything is going to bloom, and there's going to be pollen everywhere too. So Here we go.
It's about time for everybody to just walk outside with a respirator on.
I know.
Try to fight the pollen.
I know it. But anyways, all that being said, I did want where I was going with all that with the Habitat Network is that these guys are running ragged, trying to keep up with burns and all that good stuff. So. We have gotten several professionals signed up, and so hopefully we're going to be able to, instead of just telling people no, we can say, no, we can't do it, but we have a network of guys that can. And that was the whole point in developing that network, is to help provide more habitat services for landowners in the Southeast. And we're on our way to getting that going. So there's been a lot of guys from several different states that have reached out and want to be a part of it. So, anyways, we're excited about it. So, hopefully we get that going.
Absolutely. I have been on the phone doing something that I didn't miss at all when I was with, Game and Fish, and that's going through references and reading work samples and the whole nine from a hiring committee standpoint. But I actually got to talk with seems like some very, very knowledgeable and highly recommended folks that I've talked to thus far. Still have a few to get through this week, but I'm taking a lot of time to go through work samples and contact references just to make sure, these folks are the right fit, and that we can recommend these service providers without any hesitation.
For sure. And I just want to throw that out there too. If you're a professional and you've reached out and you have filled out the application on the website, we have received it, and we're following up. Like all of us, we've all got full-time jobs, doing other things. And so we are following up with you guys. It may take us, a few more days or so, but we've tried to reach out to everybody and at least let you know we did receive your applications, and we're just going through references, trying to do our due diligence and make sure that that's a good fit and all the above. So just don't give up on us. We're just trying to make it. But yeah, so today I think the topic of discussion, we could have talked about a lot of different things. And I think what me and Jeremy just kind of arrived on is, instead of doing the typical turkey stuff this time of year, which we will cover, by the way, I know there's a lot of guys out here that exclusively turkey hunt, and they're like, man, when are you guys going to put some turkey content out there? And that's coming. We just got some pretty special guests lined up for a few of those shows. So we just want to save our turkey content for those people whenever we get a chance to sit down with them. But today we kind of switch gears a little bit and start talking about some real estate stuff. And the reason for that is this is the time of year that a lot of realtors get really excited. Those of you who are in the real estate world know that when things start to green up, things start to warm up, that's kind of the signal for real estate to start to get hot. I mean, I won't say it's wide open or anything like that, but generally speaking, listing photos, listing videos look better when things aren't brown and dead. It looks better when things are green, and it looks like, everything is, the lawns are green, and, all the trees are blooming and all that good stuff. So, that usually means that I get a little bit busier, and we pray that continues this time of year. But it's just the time that real estate starts to ramp up, and that's no different from the recreational properties too. I mean, not just homes and flower beds and gardens and stuff like that, but actual, real recreational properties that people might use to hunt on or, to ride on, trail ride, whatever. Those start to ramp up too. And so take a little bit of time and talk about that kind of stuff, and how to know if a property is right for you, how to know that a property is going to, you're going to be able to meet your goals and objectives with a particular piece of property versus maybe somewhere else. So we happen to have a real estate broker in the room, or in the room on the call, I guess, not in the room. So I'm just going to pick Jeremy's brain a little bit about some real estate stuff and how to know if a property is right to buy and those sort of things. So Jeremy, you ready to shed some light on the topic and give us your expertise?
Yeah, let's do this thing. Because I have no idea what you're about to ask me.
I don't even know if I know what I'm going to ask you, to be honest. This is probably the least prepared that I've ever been for any of our episodes. But like I said, we're all just kind of running ragged around here. For me, just combination of either me being sick or someone in my family being sick, it has put me way behind on stuff I need to get done from a workload standpoint. So I'm scrambling myself. And I know these guys are too, just trying to keep up with stuff. But I don't want to throw a scenario at you, Jeremy. This is, not necessarily for me personally. I'm not in a position to do it, but there's a lot of people that are. Maybe you're someone who has said, I have goals and ambitions of owning my own property that I can manage and I can hunt on, whether that's deer, turkey, quail, whatever. And that's some like aspiration that someone's had for a long time. So most places, most people are going to try to purchase as much property as they can afford. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's generally the rule of thumb there. If you're going to buy land, don't buy a little if you can afford more. Try to get as much as you can, because I know the old saying is they're not making it anymore. It's not like there's more to go around. So the earlier that you can buy it, typically the cheaper it is, and typically the more its value will grow over time. So from that perspective, somebody is really trying to find that perfect property for them. What are a few things that you feel like are like non-negotiable? These are have-tos. These are things that have to happen, or that the property has to have in order for them to think about, submitting an offer and purchasing that property.
Well, number one, they need to call me.
there you go.
Shameless. Yeah, it was shameless. Honestly, a lot of folks now with the access to maps and landowner information and all that's available on the internet, we find that most people have done a lot of research already before they reach out to an agent. One thing that, that I don't want this to sound like I'm trying to cut any kind of agents out or not, but it is just kind of the case here. If you're looking at buying rural land, timberland, farmland, make sure, number one, your agent understands the product. But there's a million phenomenal residential agents out there that are great at residential, and that doesn't always transfer over to them knowing a product of rural land, agriculture land, timberland. So just make sure that you got the right agent for the right product. And that goes for the same way. Look, don't call me if you're wanting to buy a house in downtown Huntsville, I am not your guy. Now, if you want to buy, some land on outside of Huntsville that's transitional land, farmland, recreational, then yeah, absolutely, I'm going to know those products. So that's first and foremost. Do background on your agent. Check their Google reviews. Hopefully, they've got some. I know that's something that we've been working on over the last, several months to a couple of years now, really getting good reviews. Once you figure out, kind of a general area that you want to be, you're going to have to figure out your financing. Obviously, if you're going to be a cash buyer, then that's a total different deal. Just know and understand that property values across the state are going up. A lot of people moving here. Land is a little higher than what people expect most of the time. If you aren't going to be a cash buyer and you're going to be financing, make sure you call a number of lending institutions. The bank you deal with at home, for your primary banking needs may not be the best outlet for financing. I mean, I'm dealing with a contract right now that the couple wanted to use, their current bank, and they don't even finance on the number of acres that they were wanting to try to buy. So they reached out. From what I understand, they're dealing with First South, which is always great, sponsor of the program. But there's a lot of great land lending groups out there. So do a deep dive, find out what's right for you, and get your financing sorted out before you start looking at land. Land moves at times at a very, very rapid pace, especially if it's a well-managed, really nice tract that's affordable. Big tracts, hard to sell. Your buyer pool is much smaller. So, that's a little bit different. But if you're buying a reasonable sized tract that's, say under $500,000, there's probably going to be a lot of people interested in that particular tract. So getting your financing done up front is going to get you ahead of the curve when it comes offer time.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I will say this, I'm not a realtor. I have worked with a lot of them, just from the, video photography side. When someone gets a listing, do a lot of that kind of work. And I'll say this, just to kind of echo what Jeremy said, there is a big difference. And again, not that people aren't knowledgeable or aren't smart or anything like that, but there's a big difference between selling land, rural land, versus something that is, 431, highway frontage or something like that, and a home. I mean, it's just, those are different worlds. And I would just encourage you, just like Jeremy did, get you somebody that knows that game, because it is very different. And, we see some stuff go on where it's like an agent that typically does not list land all of a sudden has a big tract of land and they list it, and it's like, man, that number, where are you getting that number from?
Mm-hmm.
It just doesn't make any sense. You know what I mean? Where are you pulling comps from? And you just don't want to get in a situation like that. And it's, again, not to throw anybody under the bus or anything like that. It's just, we all have our niche. We all have something that we're, a little bit more experienced in than other areas, and that's okay. You don't have to do everything for everybody, but
yeah, look, it's calling me and asking me to look at a house and let's talk through subflooring and the ton units that's on the air conditioner, all this type of stuff. That's not me. Now you call and we talk about bushels per acre or stocking units you can put on a piece of pasture land, or ask me what the site index is, for a timber tract, then yeah, I got those answers. And that's one thing that I would recommend, when you're interviewing agents, even if you're interviewing land agents, interview them, find out what they know about the product. I mean, there's a lot of folks out there that, They may move some properties, but they may not understand exactly what you're after. And I may be one of those. I'm not saying that I got all the answers. I'm just saying do a good interview and find out if that's the best person for you for that particular piece of land.
Yeah, I mean, even within the land realm of stuff, there are guys that are really, really good at selling timber, tracts of timber and stuff like that, but might not necessarily be the greatest one to sell a poultry farm. Those are very different things, and so yeah, just make sure you got the right person. But I guess kind of moving on, talking about specific properties, and we said, hey, first thing is you got to make sure that you got financing figured out, because if you don't have financing figured out, you can't buy anything. So we got that established. Now let's talk about the actual property itself. Talk a little bit, if you don't mind, about easements and just quality of your roads, access, those types of things. Is that something that you feel like can make or break a property, or make or break the potential of what a property could be in certain situations?
Yeah, access is the number one killer of deals. I mean, and that's in my opinion. May not be, somebody else's, but that's my opinion. And this is, I guess, really more directed at consumers, making sure they ask agents about this. And look, agents should be able to go back and research these and find out what they are. But yes, easements, whether or not they're recorded, what they are recorded for. Are they prescriptive easements? Are they deeded easements that you've got, free reign in and out? How wide are they? Some easements are going to be wide enough that you can get power, water, gas, and all those utilities down through there. If you've got a 15-foot easement, good luck. Not likely to happen. Sorry about that. But on the flip side of access getting into the property, let's talk about access on the property, ingress, egress, and being able to show a piece of property. This is the one thing that we struggle as agents to get sellers to invest in, and that's improving the access of their tract of land. If you've got so-so access, one way in, one way out, it's a mess. Muddy, crossing creek, whatever. You need to improve that to a point that that's not the number one thing that a interested buyer is going to look at and go, okay, well, immediately I've got an access problem.
Right.
And that kills a lot of really nice tracts. When a tract is just, even if you've got deeded easement or good road access, if it's difficult to get into, then that's going to pose you a problem. And we run into that from time to time, whether it be, a really wet entrance in a bottomland tract, or, hard 90-degree turn or more than a 90-degree turn onto a tract that's, may need to be timbered. It's hard to get a log truck in and out of. All of these things need to be taken into account. The ingress and egress across the track is probably, you just call access to the property from the pavement, however you get there. Call that 1A. 1B is going to be access across the property as well. How you can traverse that track. If you've got to skirt the edges of a piece of property, or you've got one road in, one road out, and you're looking at, a number of acres, that property doesn't show well. The more access, the more roads and trails that you can ride down and show a piece of property, and not, but back up here a little bit, and not get knocked in the face with limbs. I'm talking good access. The better off you are, the more people have a chance to see that track in a positive light. when you're out riding around and you keep pulling up these spots and go, well, we can't drive any further, but that back 40 or that back 80, hey, we can walk over there. Some people that's not going to bother. We find that time and time again that it is a deal breaker when people have to start thinking about, well, as soon as we buy it, we've got these capital expenses just to utilize this piece of property. Now, if the property's bought cheap enough, then you can spend some capital on improving, access and infrastructure. But a lot of times, folks are stretching to buy as much property as they can, and they're not going to have, the necessary funds to continue with infrastructure.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I would say just again, this is just a personal opinion. It's just me talking. I'm pretty cheap. Right? Just as y'all, if y'all saw what I drive, you'd be like, yeah, that dude is cheap. But I would say that if I'm going to spend the money on a piece of property, and this is going to be mine, this is my baby, and I hope to have it for the rest of my life and maybe pass it on to my kids, whatever. I'm going to want that to be as turnkey as it could possibly be. Mm-hmm. I would not want to purchase a piece of property and then view it as a fixer-upper. You know what I mean? Okay, now I've got to spend a crazy amount of money to get this property, and then I've got to go figure out who to hire to, to build me some roads through here or whatever. I would say the more turnkey it is, probably the better chance you got of selling it, and brings more value and that kind of stuff.
To a certain dollar amount, that's correct. Once you reach a certain dollar figure, it seems to not matter quite as much. I mean, you've got guys, if folks are buying 1,000 acres, they generally have the funds to build infrastructure. Now, they may not do it immediately, but they've got that ability. When somebody's buying a $400,000 piece of property, and their game plan is, man, we gotta save for the next 5 years to build our home on this piece of property, then a lot of times, those small improvements have to wait. They may have some time to do it, but a lot of times those particular individuals don't have the equipment, don't have the manpower to get things done. So if you can do, as a seller, if you can do a little bit on the front end that's not going to cost you an arm and a leg, we generally see it pay dividends, by the time it reaches the closing table. One, on what it brings, and two, on speed of the sale.
Yeah, I mean, this is somewhat related, but my dad and I rent a hunting club in Randolph County, and they, like most clubs do, they have like quote unquote work days, where people show up and, plant food plots or lop roads or whatever, fix up shooting houses, all the kind of stuff that you do, kind of keep the place looking good. And anyways, when they said we need to go and trim the roads, every road on this place is like nice. I mean, you could drive a vehicle, not a four-wheeler, but a truck or an SUV on anywhere you wanted to go on the place. And we're kind of like looking around like, man, what is there to trim? This looks pretty good, whatever. But they were adamant. Nope, take this, take your tools, go down each road and lop. I'm like, okay. Well, we did it. And, even though there wasn't a ton to trim out, when it came like hunting season time and you're running the roads and trying to get to and from, man, it's nice. Like, it's nice to not have to like dodge limbs on the four-wheeler, or in your truck or whatever, and not scratch your truck up and that kind of stuff. And that was just a lease that we hunted. If it's your property that you own, I mean, how much more important is it? You know what I mean? So yeah, it makes a huge difference to have nice roads that aren't washed out and don't have limbs hitting you in the face and that sort of stuff. So,
well, and the problem that we run into, and I hate to say it's a problem, but it can be, what we run into is people want to sell their property at the height of the market, the peak, but they're not willing to do anything to make it bring that. And so we have to kind of bring down expectations of, hey, if you want to sell, at $5,000 an acre, then you're going to have to do some things that's going to make it go from $4,200 an acre to $5,000 an acre. You're going to have to make some improvements. Some folks aren't willing to do that, and generally speaking, they'll have to come in at a lower sales price. That's not always the case. COVID kind of changed the game during that whole time period. I mean, property was selling just as fast as it could be put on the market, and for crazy. And unfortunately, some sellers are still expecting that, but that is not the market that we are in now. So you can't expect, to move something at the top of the market, in a 4 to 6 week time frame. Will you get lucky? It's a possibility. But right now we're seeing bait time on the market creep back up to that between 3 and 6 month period. And pricing it right is important. I mean, it's, to me, it's second behind having the right agent. Two, if you've got the right agent, you should arrive at the right price. But your first 60 days on market are absolutely vital. And so, I know I do, and most of the agents here at Tut really focus on trying to work with them and sellers and say, hey, look, we can market it at a higher rate, but you're going to give up, those first 2 months. Likely that's the prime time to get the right eyeballs on this place. I do not like having to jump on there in 60 days and do a price reduction. It drives me crazy because it immediately tells folks that are watching, they kind of knew this was too high and they just wanted to see. And then their wheels start turning and it's okay, well, if they knew it was too high, how too high were they? Is it going to come down again? So I push my sellers to really, really think about, let's get it on there for a doable number, something that when people scroll across it, see it online, they don't immediately go, well, that's way out of line, and us miss that click or that visit to the website.
Yep, for sure. Yeah, I mean, you can overshoot it so bad that it scares people off, and then it sets you up for failure for long term, because if you're way overpriced, chances are you're not going to move the property. You're going to get unhappy with that particular listing agent, and highly likely that you're going to move on from that agent if you don't sell it. And then you've kind of got a sour taste in your mouth with agents because it's listed too high. And look, some agents, there are going to be agents out there that push you to list high or tell you that the number is much higher than what it is. And I hope they're not doing it just to get the listing. I hope they're just, trying to get you the most money they can. But a lot of them, not a lot of them, some are just going to tell you a high number just to try to obtain your listing. And then they're going to try to negotiate you down when you don't have activity. And I'm not going to do that. That's a waste of my time and theirs too. Sure. No doubt. Having the right agent knows the game, having good access, big deal. I mean, you guys have heard me tell this story on the podcast before, but even where we live now was very, very overgrown, and you couldn't really see the entire property as far as what we actually bought, and we just went ahead and bought it, and then all of a sudden now that everything's cleared off and you can see it, we own property on both sides of a major creek, and we don't have a way to access what we own on the other side of the creek because it's the creek's too wide and too deep to get across.
Just FYI, I was not Taylor's agent.
No, it was not. No, Taylor didn't have an agent. Taylor bought land from his dad. So, Anyways, but that's just, but that's part of the game though. I mean, that's part of the risk that you take, when you don't have one, but anyways, yeah, it's a big deal. Let's talk about other stuff you mentioned earlier, like power and water, having that ability, because, some people want a homestead or a cabin or, something on these properties that they can stay in and potentially even, live in, year round. How big a deal is it, or how much of a deal breaker is it when you can't get power and water to a property?
It has become more of a deal than it used to be. Hunters used to be able to be out on a tract and kind of rough it. They'd carry water in, they'd carry propane in, battery, whatever they needed to do to have a off the grid place to stay. That is becoming less and less. Most people are wanting power and water, whether they want to put, a little, I don't even know what to call them, these storage buildings that they convert to cabins, campers, or, camp houses. That is becoming vital in the recreational world these days. And, from a farm aspect or a rural residential aspect, I mean, it's a gotta have. You gotta have power, you gotta have water, gotta perk. So it's a big deal. And most tracks that we're seeing as a higher end recreational track, they've already got those established, and may even have camps, by now.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think I remember as a kid, a friend of ours had a cabin. I mean, it was a nice place, a real nice cabin, but there was just absolutely no way to get power or water down there. And but like, nobody cared. Like, you know what I mean? It was just fun. It was right there on another major creek that's kind of in this area. And, when we were kids, we'd go down there and fish and, swim in that creek and have a ball and come back. And it was just battery powered lights that they had mounted inside and a campfire outside. And that was it. You know what I mean? And we never thought twice about it, but now it's a much bigger deal, and seems like I don't want to say we've got softer, but it seems like
absolutely got softer.
I mean, okay, well, he said it, I didn't, but we definitely have comforts that we like, and if we can avoid going without them, then we do generally.
Yeah, so. I remember staying in a camp that you could throw a cat through and he couldn't catch a hold,
Right.
It was, you freeze to death. You have a fire when you went to bed, and when you wake up, it wasn't burning still. But it has turned into to more of like glamping now. You don't see too many tents, at least down here. But we have decent weather even during the wintertime. It's not always super cold like it is up north. You don't see a whole lot of people using wall tents. It's campers or nice little camps that they're building. And I would say by and large these days, I would say 75% of sellers / buyers, I'm just going to say real estate clients that have had 100+ acre tracts, I'd say 75% of them have power, water already established, and probably 50% of them already have somewhere to stay on them now. Now, it may not be nice, but they've got something established.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, it is a big deal, and it has become a bigger deal, as time has gone on. But it's just hard to, like, just hearing you talk. You're talking about wall tents and kind of roughing it. My buddy Jake, that's how he would prefer it. Like, it doesn't matter where we go, where we're going to hunt. If he's come over here and stayed at my house and not stayed in the house. He just has he's got a camper shell on the bed of his truck, and he's got it set up to hunt out of. It's made, that's how he's got storage systems and stuff like that. And he's just left in my driveway because that's just, he's just like, I don't want to bring all my stuff inside. You know,
if I have the option of being in a bed, I'm going to be in a bed. And y'all can make fun of me, whatever. Yeah, I may be a sissy, but, you know, the surgeries I've had and all the back problems, falling and, 13 and breaking vertebrae and all that. Look, sleeping on the ground or sleeping in the bed of a truck is not high on my list of priorities.
No. But
when I go on destination hunts, I'm willing to rough it if that's what it takes. But most of the time that hadn't been what it took for us to be successful. So,
right. That's right. Well, yeah. So, all right, we talked about that. One thing that I feel like is, in my opinion, probably one of the most overlooked aspects of picking a property is your neighbors. How big of a deal or how big of a role do you think neighbors play in a tract being, you may have a tract that's just dynamite. Like it's just awesome. It's everything you would ever want in a piece of property, but the neighbors around you are less than stellar. You know what I mean? Like how often does that play into the equation when someone's looking to buy?
More than you would think now. And it's twofold. One, you've got certain clientele that, hey, we just don't want to ride through anything that looks like that. We're buying a farm and we don't want to ride by that. Well, a lot of times you just have to say, okay, but welcome to Alabama. Go a mile in any direction and you're going to ride by something that looks unappealing to some folks, some folks that don't bother a bit in the world, and that's fine. From a hunting standpoint, it is becoming a much bigger deal than it used to be. I would say that our clients, especially buyers, used to not ask, hey, what's going on around us? But now that's becoming a common question because people are realizing, of course, they've seen us talk about it and they see everybody else talk about it. You can do all the good that you want to do, and you can have a neighbor beside you that, don't want to work with you. And you can spend hundreds of thousands to, even millions of dollars and still never be able to attain a goal because of a neighbor.
Yep.
I mean, we're dealing with that right now. I didn't help the guy buy the property. He bought a beautiful place. He's trying to manage it well. He's got a couple of neighbors who are just wearing him out. I highly expect it'll go under fence. It's a
Really?
a 600 plus acre tract. The guy's not afraid to spend money on doing it right. There's not additional acreage that he can pick up because neighbors aren't going to sell. He would if they would. He would definitely purchase more ground. They're just not going to. So he's not moving. That's where he lives. So it's highly likely that place will have a fence around it.
Yeah, and that's just kind of a sidebar here. I think we've put out a few clips and people have been like, are you kidding me? These people are going to put up an enclosure on their property. Why don't you hunt like a real man or, whatever. It's just that kind of mentality. I'll be the first to admit, I was not aware of how many people that have the funds and have the drive to put up a fence, at least along one side of their property. If they've got a neighbor to their east, whatever, that they just cannot seem to get along with, they just butt heads and can't get along, whatever. I don't know. I guess just in my mind, I'm like, how many people could there be out there that would have the funds to A, buy this property, and then B, years down the road go, you know what, I'm going to put a high fence up that way. I don't have to deal with losing animals to that neighbor that I just can't seem to get along with, whatever. And so it seems like there's a lot more of them than I originally thought.
And see, this particular client, I mean, he and his neighbor get along fine. the neighbor's just like, hey, you've got a different way of doing things than I want to do. They don't have any hard feelings toward one another. They just see it differently. And, one guy has a nice piece of ground, maybe 80, 90 acres. He wants to hunt it the way he wants to, and it's his, and he's got every right to do that, and he should. But our client, the neighbor's got 600 plus acres. It doesn't matter what he spent on it, but it's in the millions, with house, barn, lake, and buying the property. He wants to do it the way he wants to do it. So, no harm, no foul on building the fence. I don't fault him for it. He's got a lot of money in it and wants to manage it his way. He should be able to do that.
Yeah, and I feel like at some point it becomes you trying to protect the investment that you've made.
It is.
I realize like nobody owns deer, right? That's public. It's not like, you own deer, you own turkeys on your land. You don't. But at some point there are the wildlife is part of what makes that property valuable.
Absolutely.
And it's not the only thing, but it's part of it. And so at some point it becomes just, not resource management, but it's just protection. You know what I mean? You're trying to protect the investment that you've made, which, like you said, is probably a lot of money. And so you can't really fault him for that either. And you also can't fault like you said, the neighbor for wanting to hunt the way he wants to hunt, man. I think people sometimes come across our content and completely misread what we have said, or, don't get the full context. We're all about property rights, man. We're all about, like, you buy a license, you go hunt and you take whatever animals you want to, man. That, as long as it's legal, you have at it, have fun.
That's right.
But that does not mean that what the scenario me and you were talking about right now isn't reality, because it is. Like, those that exist. And there are people that butt heads over the fact that, like, they just have different objectives and different goals for how they want to hunt and how they want to manage their properties. And
on this particular tract, that 80, 90 acre tract, I forget exactly what it is. It's pasture out on the road frontage. And his other neighbors are pasture, and he's got a little block, probably about 40 acres of woods that butts up to our client. If our client ends up fencing that, it's really going to cut his deer hunting potential down significantly, because his source of deer primarily where he's at is this larger tract of land that our client owns. And like I said, they're actually buddies. We saw them out there while we were burning the other day, and they've got no problems with each other. They just different goals.
Yep. Which is fine. No big
That's
deal.
it.
So on that same subject of neighbors, like, what can you do when you're trying to fill a property out and see if this is something you want to buy? I mean, are you advocating that your buyer, or even you as maybe their agent, you reach out to these people and try to talk to them and say,
for buyers, I am doing a pretty deep dive, depending on what the purpose of the acreage is. If it's recreational land, for the purpose of managing deer, turkey, quail, whatever, then yes, I'm going to do a pretty deep dive on the neighbors and find out what's going on. Some of them may tell me to go fly a kite, but generally speaking, most of them will tell you, kind of what they're up to, what their goals are. And, it's really easy to know when they say, I'm going to do what I want to. I don't care who buys it. Sometimes that's a negative, conversation there from the get-go. And these buyers are like, look, that turns me off a little bit. Let's try to find something else.
Well, I was going to say, have you ever made a recommendation to a potential buyer to say, hey, I know you like this property. I know it looks good. It's got everything you want. I really believe your neighbors are going to make your life miserable.
100%.
If I were you, I would pass on this one. Let's go find something else.
100%. Yeah.
I'm just curious because I know that, I mean, in the real estate game, I mean, you've got to be selling stuff. You're not making money. So I think if you've got somebody that's going to be honest with you and go, look, I could sell you this track and, I would make a lick off of it and that'd be great.
Oh, yeah.
In good faith, I just can't do it because I wouldn't be able to sleep at night knowing that you and your neighbors are not going to jive. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it would absolutely behoove me to say, oh, yeah, man, great track. I think you can do all that you want to do and sell it. Like I said, I'm not going to do that if I know what the situation is. And look, there's going to be a lot of times I don't know the situation and I'm not going to get enough information from the client or not from the client, excuse me, but from the neighbors to say, hey, you need to watch out for this or that. Sometimes we just have to roll with our best guess. And we've done that. And most of the time we come out all right.
Yeah.
We've had a couple of folks that ended up, they had a relatively low opinion of the track, but it fit what they were after. And they kept it for a couple of years, then they turn around and put it back on the market. I mean, that happens a lot, primarily with flippers or folks that are just trying to roll property and buy bigger stuff. They may take a less desirable tract, work on it a little bit, even if the neighbors are bad, and then turn around and flip it.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's probably just different economic status, different people, I guess. But again, my opinion, if I buy something, odds are like that's going to be mine, Lord willing, I'm going to hang on to that and that's going to be mine for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
There are other people who absolutely don't think that way and go, I'm going to dress this place up, work on it for a year or two. It's going back on the market and I'm going to make some money off of it,
Yeah.
And I guess it's just
even past looking at the neighbors, I'm going to do a deep dive when it's high-end recreational. We got to know that property is capable of reaching the desired results. If the guy, his whole desire is, hey, I want to buy a place and I don't want to fence it and I want a legitimate chance at growing 150-inch deer, there's going to be places in Alabama I tell him don't even think about buying. Just with knowledge of the deer herd, and everybody says, deer have unknown potential, and that's accurate. But if you can take a general area and you can go back 15 or 20 years on, a 4 or 5 mile area and get a good idea of what the best wildlife, that they're producing, best deer, best turkey, whatever that they're producing, it may be better to look elsewhere. And that's where duck hunters and waterfowl properties really have a better edge than, your deer and turkey properties. These waterfowl hunters that really take it serious, they're taking logs of how many ducks are being killed on these tracks year in, year out. And if you can produce a history of, a small tract producing 400 or 500 ducks a year, or if you've got a giant tract producing, 1,000 birds a year, then that means something. That's what people are buying. That is not in the deer and turkey world. That is not there quite yet, unless it's an enclosure or a breeder situation. They're gonna want to know what's being produced inside those enclosures.
Yeah, well, and I also think too, you just have to be honest about your willingness to play the game. If like you said, the guy wants to legitimately grow 150-inch deer free range in Alabama, there are places where that can absolutely be done. Mm-hmm. There's places that, you could make an argument that it could be done anywhere.
Well,
and that might be well, and that might be true, but you've got to be honest with yourself and go, do I have the patience to put up with, everything that comes along with that. This is just the soil fertility is not as good here. There's a million landowners surrounding me, that have small properties and they shoot whatever they want, just all that kind of stuff. So when you start to think of it like that, and I just, I don't mind saying it on here. Like I made a decision a long time ago that if I'm going to hunt in Alabama, because I enjoy bow hunting, like I'm going to shoot a deer that makes me happy, that gets my heart thumping out of my chest, whatever that happens to be, and I'm going to be happy and be proud of it, instead of being angry and frustrated with everybody else because they're not allowing deer to get old enough to maybe become a 140 or 150. It's like, just make a decision to be content with what you've got and be happy with what you put in the bed of your truck.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And okay. You know what I mean? That's fine. Or understand that you're going to have to be, frustrated and might lose some sleep and, whatever, because somebody shot a deer that you wanted to let walk, whatever. And I'm just the places that I get to hunt and the locations that I get to hunt, it's just not worth doing that. You know what I mean? It's where I'm just going to be content with where I get to hunt and where I get to put on the wall.
And one thing, and I've got some phenomenal clients, and I've sold some really great properties, and I've sold some really rough looking properties through the years. But one thing that I tell, a lot of my buyers, especially that are in it for the recreational value and they're in it for the long haul, is let's buy a property in a location that is going to be convenient to you, that you are going to use, and meets most of your objectives. If they don't meet all of them, we can build the property to meet your objectives, assuming you've got the capital to expend on it. Like the Cedar Mountain project that, most people have seen on here that I've been working on. I sold that tract in, I think, 21, and we set logging crews down on it. I mean, just almost as soon as we were closed. And that project is still not done. And it's not a huge place. It's 535 acres. We've cut 225, 230 acres of timber. We've built 4.5 to 5 miles of road now. We've planted, hundreds of oak trees. Later this week, we're going to be planting mass producing trees. We cleared and stumped 30 plus acres for new fields. We've built a barn. We've still got to build another shed and a storage facility for grain, for their, corn and feeders. And so if people have time, then we can build it. But that's not always what people are willing to do. They want something turnkey. And if you want turnkey, you're a different buyer and it's going to cost you more, generally speaking.
Yep. Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, like anything else, but, speaking of those properties and just, that have been built and managed and they command more money. Something we want to start doing here on the show is plugging, kind of I don't know what we call that, listing of the week or, property of the week or whatever. But there's one in particular that, Jeremy's got some stats on. I was fortunate enough to do the listing video for this property, and it is far and away the nicest property I've ever gotten to shoot and kind of document or capture for listing video. And I was pretty proud of how it turned out. But I was going to let Jeremy, if you want to, just kind of read off some stats about it, in the weird oddball chance that we have somebody listening here that might be interested in it. Who knows,
Well, it's actually listed the way we have it on our website at tutland.com. It's listed in two separate tracts, or two separate listings. It is one tract. It's called the Triple Creek Hearthstone tract, and then the Triple Creek Plantation tract. It's a total of about 3,540 acres. The primary side that would be listed, called the Triple Creek Plantation, is going to be 2,630 acres. The primary lodge is something you've got to see. 4-bed, 4.5 bath. Tremendous management's been going on that place. I was lucky enough to start, the management process on there when I was with Game and Fish. Me and another biologist, Mark Sasser, and then folks with Tall Timbers, Clay Sisson and that bunch came up and started laying out a plan to manage this particular place for quail. And it is absolutely phenomenal. Got a really nice lake. Across the road is the secondary tract, is called the Hearthstone tract, 910 acres. That particular lodge that's on it is 4-bed, 4-bath with 2 half baths. Got mudroom, locker, really, really nice big kitchen, dining area with a wraparound porch. That's where we got to hang out, Taylor, and cook and eat and have a big time.
No, it was awesome.
On the Hearthstone tract, there is another cabin that's 3-bed, 2-bath. Currently, that's where the manager of the property lives, and so you got somebody on site. The Hearthstone tract also has guide quarters, which is I don't know exactly what the living space is there, but it's got a nice living space, full bath, 2-car garage. It's got a putting green. It's got an 8-station lighted sporting clay course, or skeet course, excuse me, not sporting clay, but really, really phenomenal piece of property. You're looking at a total list price of $13.9 million. They're listed in 2 separate tracts. So the Hearthstone, I think, is $4.5 million, and
what was the actual? It's not Pale City. It's close, but it's.
It's just outside of Pale City in the Cook Springs area in St. Clair County.
Cook Springs. I was going to say I couldn't remember the name. Cook Springs. Yeah.
Really, really good timber value on the track. Managed very, very well. You can go kill wild quail on this place, which is kind of a rarity for what I would consider North Alabama. I mean, look, it's south of I-20, but it's North Alabama compared to all the other quail plantations in the state.
Yes, for sure.
But it is a property that you really have to see to understand what all it offers.
Yeah, I mean, diversity, obviously it's managed for quail, so there's oh gosh, yeah. I mean, they're like that place. I've heard Matt talk about how he tries to do stuff on his property that he owns or that he leases. Like he says, there's no way. There's so much food on that property that's animals, wildlife could never consume all of it.
That's right.
That's how this place. There is no possible way that wildlife could ever consume the amount of food that's on this. It's unbelievable. And then
not possible. Yeah.
No. But yeah. Anyways, just to kind of give a shameless plug for that place there because it's worth mentioning. I mean, it's just a phenomenal place.
And the agents that have that listed are Trey and Gracie McElrath. You can find these tracks at tutland.com. You can search for Alabama properties or even go down to St. Clair County properties and find those there. But really, really, it's just tremendous property.
It is.
I don't know of every tract that's on the market right now in the state, but I can promise you this particular property as a whole, even though it's split into 2 tracts or 2 offerings, it would be, in my opinion, in the top 1 to 3 properties available in the state of Alabama right now.
I could not imagine. I mean, the land alone, how it's set up and laid out, road systems, plots, everything is just absolutely, pristine. But then you add the structures to, the lodge, which is, I mean, second to none. I'm not trying to plug my own video, but if you want to see what that lodge looks like, check that out. We actually flew a FPV drone through it and then out the other side over the pond. Like, it's just phenomenal. But
there is not a shortcut taken on that particular track, period.
Mm-hmm. No, not at all. So make sure you check that out, tutland.com. Jeremy, that's about the last thing that I had as far as just talking through, if somebody's trying to evaluate a piece of property and determine whether or not they want to purchase it. I think we kind of ran through about all of it, unless you got something else we forgot.
Yeah, do research. Make sure you've got the right agent. There's a lot when it comes to buying land. There's just a plethora of things that can come up, especially in parts of the state that have had mining in the past. You may run into properties that need phase 1 environmentals. You may run into properties that got old farm properties that's got storage tanks that's got to be dealt with, or like you say, easements or boundary issues. There's on a rural tract, there's always going to be something. I'm not going to say it's going to hold up, a closing, but there's generally always something that it is going to need addressed. I'm not going to say it causes a problem, but there's going to be something underlying that needs to be addressed.
Yep, for sure. Yep, it's just, it's worth it to get an agent that knows the game and that you can trust and all that kind of stuff too.
Yeah,
so.
And a little bit, not a shameless plug, but just a note from somebody that makes a living in the real estate business. Everything's negotiable, but the land business is a little bit different. It cost us, as far as land agents, quite a bit of money to advertise and put all these packages for sale. We don't simply rest on the MLS to sell your property. He has to hire people like me. So is what he's trying to say.
That's
right. I've got to hire. I guess I could do the pictures and drones, but I don't have time, and that's not what I'm good at. So, and most other agents are hiring people as well. But you've got to pay for your mapping. You've got to pay for your listings to go on, like the CoStar sites that Tut's a member of. It costs us several $1,000s a year, depending on what level you are in that site or in those sites. So don't always just immediately beat down an agent on their commission. Now, if somebody shows up and says, "Hey, man, I want 10%," okay, I get it.
Right.
But you ride up and down the road, and like here in Albertville, Guntersville area, there's I won't call out anybody, but there's billboards up and down Highway 431 that says list for 2%. Sure. If it's a house, the amount of money that I've got to pay to put together a quality listing and get it presented to the public in the way that it needs to be, I mean, I'm not working for anything at that point. I'm producing everything, and I am paying my gas and a little bit of my time. There's no profit there. So if you're talking to land agents and you automatically, you're listing and they automatically hit you at 6, 7, 8%, understand that there is a lot more cost associated with selling land than it is residential properties.
For sure.
And not to mention, if it's a big tract, your agent's going to be there for days putting together a listing plan, the photos, the video. Most residential agents can put together a pretty solid listing in a 1-day visit. It's tough for us to do that in the land business.
Yeah, I mean, I'll speak on that particular tract we talked about at Triple Creek. I mean, it took me and a friend of mine to help me shoot this property. It took 2 full days to shoot it. And that's not counting any kind of editing. That's not, putting anything together to shoot that property. Took 2 full days from 2 people. Like, it's just hard to, it's hard to do. So,
yeah. By the time we get listings to the closing table, generally, if it's a sizable tract, a couple hundred acres, you're going to have anywhere from $2,000 to $5,000 in getting that thing to the table if you've had to show it a bunch. Especially now with gas and fuel prices going to what they're going to, it's going to be real easy to eat up your paycheck just going and showing tracts. And look, I get it; it's all a negotiation. Somebody wants to sell it and get out of paying as much as they can. But I'll say this: like most things in life, you're going to get what you pay for, or you should.
Yep,
if you're paying a premium in your commission, then you should get premium service. If you're not, it might be time to look a different direction from an agent standpoint.
No doubt. Well, guys, that'll just about wrap us up. The only thing I did want to mention before we got off of here is the Habitat Network. Go to thehabitatnetwork.com. If you don't know, I mean, obviously we've tried to plug it and tried to talk about it a lot, but it is a subscription-based offering from us where you pay an annual fee of $45. That gets you for the whole year. If you go to Chick-fil-A and buy, lunch or buy dinner for your family, you're going to spend more than that. But $45 will get you access to a whole network of habitat professionals that span across the entire Southeast. We're adding more professionals to that network literally daily. We're just taking our time to weed through and vet these people and make sure that they are who they say they are and have the criteria and the credentials that'd be a good fit for us. So you're going to get access to them. We have a growing media library where we're going to have some kind of educational content for you to have access to whenever you want it. And then we're also offering the very first, actually this month, I think tomorrow, I don't know if when this episode is going to air after it, but monthly live streams, and where we will add you, once you purchase your annual membership, we're going to add you to a private Facebook group where you have access to these professionals. You can ask questions, you can share photos, videos, all that good stuff, kind of get everybody's opinion. So it's a lot of fun to kind of interact with other subscribers and also with the professionals. And then we do a once a month live stream. This one is the one exception, but from now on, it's going to be the first Tuesday of every month at 6:30 p.m. Central. We're going to go live. If you are a subscriber, you can be a part of that. You can ask questions and have people actually interact with you live. And then we'll post that video. Once we're finished, we'll post the video inside of that Facebook group where you can then view it later, reference it if you want to. So we got more stuff coming, a lot of things in the works, things that we're adding to the Habitat Network. But for now, that's what we're offering, and we're pretty excited about it. So really want you guys to be involved. If you haven't joined, please do that. And you can also check out, if you want any merch, Habitat or Southern U merch, check out thesouthernu.com. All you got to do is hop on over there and you'll find 2 different collections. One is Habitat, one is Southern U. And you can buy shirts, hats, that sort of stuff. We're taking pre-orders right now and probably going to be doing that for maybe another week or so. And then we're going to have to go ahead and place the order with whatever pre-orders we've got. So, Jeremy, you got anything else? You were looking like you were wanting to mention something.
Well, just want to second all that you just said. And the folks that we have added, or we're working on adding. I know I've sent Taylor some additions today. Mm-hmm. Man, we've got some phenomenal, knowledgeable folks coming on board. Going to be adding, I know a couple of guys in Mississippi. We've got some Georgia and South Carolina folks coming online pretty quick. That's going to be really kind of hitting the hole. And, these guys are really, really well thought of in the industry, not just in their local area, but, that's where we're focused, is their local area. But again, we are vetting these guys as best we can. Excited about the ones that are going to join us. When it comes to the live streams, we're going to feel our way through this first one, but it kind of what our game plan, moving forward is a little bit like we try to pick a topic and do a podcast. We're going to try to stick with a theme of some nature in those live streams, so that we're not just going from can to can't all across the board. Now we can get into that, but really hope to dig deeper into some of these topics, maybe even all the way down to very, very specific, just for an example, may dig down so deep that we're giving you guys, herbicide prescriptions for clover. But it is going to be an outlet where you're going to get more detailed information than you're able to get, or that we're able to give here on the podcast, because we're just, being pretty general.
Yep, for sure. Absolutely. And the last thing that I will say, we don't talk, politics on this thing. We're not going to start now. The only thing I did want to mention is just with what is going on with the world right now, there are families across the globe that would covet your prayers. You don't have to be on any side of the aisle, red, blue, or anything in between, whatever, it doesn't matter. Pray for our country as well as others, because nobody really knows how this thing is going to, how this thing's going to shake out, whatever. But there are people across the world that could absolutely use your prayers. And so I just encourage you, if you are a praying person, to do that. It doesn't matter where you line up politically, but that's all I got for you. Appreciate you guys hanging out with us again. Check us out, southernu.com, or you can check us out on the habitatnetwork.com for more info. And we'll have some more details about the Habitat Network, some things that we're going to be doing to maybe get you guys to sign up. Got something we might be giving away, maybe not. We'll let you in on that here in the next couple of days. So appreciate you guys. Thanks for sticking with us. We'll see you on the next one.
Out.